Welcome back, Wolfpack Verlis here, and I really messed up Gigalith apparently. I didn't really consider Assault Vest too much, but apparently it's a thing, and it's quite a lot of a thing because there are a lot of comments that mention the Assault Vest. According to my search, apparently 14 comments mention Assault Vest out of 109 comments for the video. So, 1 in 10 people didn't think I did that justice, and yet it has one of the best dislike to like ratios that I've seen in like a few weeks. So I'm very confused by this one. However, let's go into Pokemon Showdown and right this wrong. Now, one thing I thought about the Assault Vest, so I was looking at it and like, yeah, I was thinking max hit points, max attack, and my idea with Gigalith was mostly that you want to use Sturdy for some very secure, very reliable setup. That with that Sturdy, you know you're going to get Stealth Rocks off, depending on how much damage or what your opponent's doing against you. You can also combo that into a lot of other really good things. With Assault Vest, I didn't feel the effectiveness was there, even though the stats were there. So I mean, we're going to get close to 300 special defense. We already have close to 300 defense. I guess our other point would go into special defense, just to make things a little better. And then we also have 374 hit points. Overall, we're going to be very balanced, because now we're tanking like a 130 special defense and 130 defensive Pokemon, but we can only use offensive moves. And like I said, that feels like it goes against the ideas I had for Gigalith, that you can combo and gimmick just a little better with that Custat Berry, or go into some really heavy physical tankiness. But with the Assault Vest, you still have something really good, and I ignored Smackdown. Smackdown's actually going to be very effective because you get to knock down Levitate Pokemon and then hit them with an Earthquake or something like that. So either Stone Edge is going to be a ton of raw damage, we have Smackdown, or we just blow up with Explosion after we've taken too much damage. Now the problem is, I did run some damage calculations, and they didn't really make me too happy. That Greninja, that if a timid Life Orb Greninja uses Scald, it's going to two-shot you, and Stone Edge has a small chance of one-shotting. Now to be fair, with the Life Orb, they are going to knock themselves out afterwards, so they take 10% and then you do the other 90, pretty much every situation, but in that time, you're still taking like 65% of your health. So the next Pokemon comes in, if it does 30% to you, then you get knocked out, and you really just traded 1 for 1. So it really doesn't come into you much at all. Same with Rotom. That one thing I saw with Smackdown was like, oh man, you smack down Rotom, and then you just go for an Earthquake, and it's going to get knocked out. Problem here is Hydro Pump 2-shots you, so they use Hydro Pump on you, you use Smackdown, then they outspeed you and use Hydro Pump, and you get knocked out before you get a chance to Earthquake, and even then, with Stone Edge, you're not getting a lot of damage. So Adamant Full Attack isn't finding 1-hit KOs, some 2-hit KOs against like bulky, pure defensive Pokemon. So the best situation is that you become a 3-hit KO Pokemon, you 2-hit KO the opposing Pokemon, and then the next Pokemon comes in, outspeeds you, and then wipes the floor with you. But there are some situations where it can still work out, like Gengar. Gengar, unless it's using Focus Blast, which sometimes they have Dazzling Gleam now, Destiny Bond, they have all sorts of weird things, but Focus Blast also has to land twice in a row, which is 70% accuracy. So the odds are somewhat balanced on this one. Let's just go with Shadow Ball. It's going to use Shadow Ball. It doesn't 2-hit KO you with Shadow Ball, so that means you can knock down into the Earthquake and knock out a Gengar with that. So you can trade Gengar, you can trade some specific not super effective hits, but that doesn't feel like it's as effective as setting up Stealth Rocks and then scoring KO on top of that, because the damage kind of falls behind. But then at the same time, you can use this in doubles. That on a Sand team, this is going to be very powerful, because first off, Gigalith under Sand, since it's a Rock-type Pokemon, is going to get bonus special defense. So then with the Sandstorm and Assault Vest and then defensive, now it's actually going to be super tanky in a special defensive kind of situation. And I also didn't really mention Sand Force either. Like, Sand Force, it seemed pretty obvious just for the way of the guy that if you bring Sand with it, that in singles or doubles, you just kind of run some damage things. But if you're running some kind of Sand setup team, I feel you could do a little better than Gigalith, even though this thing's going to be absurdly tanky. And then there are also situations where we can just go for damage, because why need an Assault Vest if we're already getting a free Assault Vest in Sand, have something like a Life Orb, and then just kind of play around it really well. We have Protect. We also have access to Wide Guard. So if we want to keep safe from Earthquake or something, we can use Wide Guard and then try to combo out from there. Rock Slide is going to be massive damage. Sand Force. Rock Steel attacks are going to do 30% more damage. Life Orb is doing 30% more damage. Life Orb is also going to get 50% stab. So I mean, that's going to be a huge amount of damage. If we want to just commit to Rock Sliding, we can also go for a Choice Band, but that's going to remove some of our options. We can go Lumberry in this case if we don't want to get status. And like I said, since we already have the Sand up, that's going to be in our favor. So that is, try to stay a 2-3-hit KO Pokemon, and then just use Rock Slide Explosion, and that should knock out both of your opponent's Pokemon really effectively, and if you have your allied Pokemon using Protect, they'll be safe as well. Now, one crazy thing I did think about was, okay, what about Sandstorm Trick Room? That you have your ally Pokemon set up a Trick Room, and then you set up a Sandstorm. using Sand Force, now you're going to have that speed priority, and then you go for the huge Rock Slide, the huge Explosion, the huge Earthquake. I mean, we just reviewed Musharna. Musharna seems like a really strong Pokemon for this because it has the Helping Hand. So, you Helping Hand with that Earthquake, and it's going to go monster. So we have Musharna, it has the Telepathy ability, so it's not going to take damage from your Explosion. It's not going to take damage from your Earthquake. That works out pretty well. It also has access to Gravity, so you Trick Room Gravity, and now you can Earthquake all of your opponents, but Musharna still stays safe. The only thing here could be an issue with Sustain, that if you're getting overwhelmed by damage, that could be a bit of a problem. And yeah, the Sandstorm will damage Musharna just a bit, but the idea is you set up Trick Room, you Helping Hand like a huge Rock Slide, you Helping Hand Explosion, and then both opponents go down, Musharna still stays up, you still have Trick Room, and that works out really well. So as far as doubles go, you can do a lot more with the Sand Force. I just didn't see it as much with the Assault Vest and singles, but doubles, since you are splitting up the damage, you do have to worry about the other Pokemon trying to do things, you can get away with a bit more. And since we're running Assault Vest, we're not worried about Sturdy at all, because even in singles or even in a situation without sand, better to have a Sand Force. If they bring sand, if something else kind of gets set up in that way, with Assault Vest, you don't want to get one shot under any circumstance, so it does give access to the Sand Force. So Assault Vest Gigalith, it's a lot more specific than I wanted for putting it on the video, but at the same time, if you actually use it properly, you get that sand boosting in there. Gigalith does a lot with that Sand Force, but you will need a lot of setup to get it most optimal. Most optimal is going to be Trick Room with that and everything, so that's going to be really risky. But outside of that, you can still set up some pretty big amounts of damage while being a really solid tank. I mean, 135 attack. We take a Pokemon like Garchomp. Garchomp is going to have 130 attack. So 130 attack on Garchomp. If you have a Life Orb Garchomp, Gigalith is going to be doing kind of more damage. Garchomp's Earthquake is going to be more stab damage, but overall, you know, the specifics are there for huge amounts of damage. You go for the Explosion. If you have Protect or Telepathy or something that'll keep you safe, like a Ghost-type Pokemon, setting up Trick Room, you have all sorts of weird options, but it can get pretty serious. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's how you use Gigalith, again, with all the mistakes I made. And I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching. Weakness Policy 2? Okay, take a hit, make sure it's super, survive on Sturdy, kill them. In Trick Room, you get to kill them twice, and then if you didn't take enough hit to get knocked out by the first super effective hit, you kill them some more. How about that? That's also Weakness Policy Gigalith.